Welcome back to the channel. What you have just heard is Robyn Brown addressing what she refers to as a so-called backdoor deal, and for the first time, she is presenting her own version of events surrounding the alleged NDA. For years, there have been whispers that Robyn operates behind the scenes, quietly shaping outcomes to suit her interests. Until now, much of that speculation was dismissed as opinion. However, this latest tell-all clip appears to provide something far more concrete, evidence that raises serious questions about what has really been happening off-camera. In the newly released footage, Robyn tells Suki that she felt pressured and even threatened by Kody to sell the property and sign off on documents connected to it. According to Robyn, this pressure reached a point where she believed she needed to protect herself legally, to the extent that she considered taking legal action against her own husband. That statement alone is explosive, because it directly contradicts the image of unity and shared decision-making that Kody and Robyn have tried to present for years. Yanelle, however, tells a very different story. From her perspective, Robyn was not a victim of pressure but rather the primary obstacle. Yanelle claims Robyn deliberately slowed the process, placing herself firmly in the way of a deal that could have been resolved cleanly and fairly. This clash of narratives is crucial because it highlights a long-standing pattern within the family. Conflicting stories, half-truths, and decisions that seem to benefit only a select few. At times, it makes you wonder what would happen if the women removed Kody entirely from the equation. Imagine them spending months together, away from his influence, simply comparing notes and sharing what he told each of them privately. How many of those stories would line up? How many would collapse under scrutiny? This is not about absolving Robyn of responsibility. Far from it. But it does highlight an unavoidable truth. Kody is the common denominator. Every conflict, every fracture, every breakdown seems to trace back to him. That said, Robyn is not a passive participant. She is highly assertive, deeply strategic, and undeniably manipulative. Unlike the other wives, she entered the family after living in a conventional monogamous marriage and spending years outside the insular culture they were raised in. That experience gave her a sharper understanding of the legal world, personal leverage, and self-preservation. She was not naive, and she was not unprepared. This awareness likely played a significant role in her insistence on becoming the legal wife, a position that granted her both security and power. Once again, the so-called backdoor deal is dragged into the spotlight, and once again it appears to function as a distraction. When Suki speaks with Yanelle, Yanelle is clear. There was no secret deal. What there was, according to her, was a desperate attempt to complete the sale despite Robyn placing what she describes as a massive obstacle in the way. Had that last-minute agreement not been introduced just days before the contract expired, the process would have gone through without chaos. This situation is not new. Last year, it was widely discussed how Robyn delayed signing the deed transfers. At the time, Kody, Meri, and Yanelle had all agreed on a division of the property. 25% each for Meri and Yanelle, and a combined 50% for Kody and Robyn as a legally married couple with rights of survivorship. This arrangement effectively gave Kody and Robyn majority control over shared parcels, allowing them to influence or even force sales if needed. Everyone else signed in January. Robyn did not. She waited nearly 2 months. Only at the end of March did she finally sign, and shortly afterwards, the sale went through in April. That timeline raises a critical question. How exactly was Robyn helping Meri by delaying her signature? From the outside, her hesitation appears to benefit no one but herself. One possible explanation involves money, specifically, the down payment on Robyn's house. Robyn had no direct control over where that money came from. Kody was on the deed with Meri, not Robyn. Any transfer of funds from Meri's assets into Robyn's property would have required Kody's involvement. If that money was redirected improperly, it could raise serious legal concerns. Robyn, understanding this, may have been attempting to shield herself from liability. This brings us to the NDA. Reports suggest that Robyn presented a document asking Meri to hold her harmless, not Kody, but Robyn herself. That distinction matters. Was Kody included in the agreement? Was it a joint NDA, or one designed solely to protect Robyn? The lack of clarity fuels speculation that Robyn may have been positioning herself to step away cleanly, leaving Kody to face the consequences alone. If Robyn was preparing for the possibility of divorce, something she has reportedly threatened more than once, the strategy makes sense. Protect yourself legally, separate your liability, and ensure that if accusations surface, responsibility falls squarely on Kody. Mary's refusal to sign the NDA stopped that plan in its tracks, and only then did Robyn agree to sign the property documents. Yanel, for her part, still views these relationships through the lens of plural marriage. She assumes shared responsibility and collective decision-making. Kody and Robyn, however, have functioned as a monogamous couple for years. Their priorities are no longer aligned with the family as a whole. Every decision appears designed to serve their partnership first, regardless of the consequences for everyone else. If Kody was pressuring Robyn, she had leverage, divorce. That threat alone could explain much of the tension we see. Behind the scenes, there appears to have been long periods of silence, missed calls, and stalled communication while the clock ticked down on the sale. Yanel repeatedly warned them that deadlines were approaching, only to be met with vague reassurances or complete avoidance. At one point, Kody even suggested forcing a sale without Robyn and Mary's consent. Had he done so, it would have been based on the original 2018 deeds, not the updated agreement. That would have left Mary with almost nothing, a devastating outcome that underscores how reckless and self-serving his decisions had become. The delay in January remains the biggest mystery. Why would Robyn refuse to sign when everyone else had agreed? Was she questioning the marital property arrangement? Were there deeper issues in her marriage that made her hesitant to tie her financial future so tightly to Kody's? The tension between them this season suggests exactly that. Viewers have noticed Kody isolating himself in the garage, with Robyn repeatedly checking on him. These moments feel less like affection and more like damage control. Robyn has openly described Kody as emotionally unsafe, citing his anger and volatile behavior. She has hinted, more than once, that she is unhappy and has considered leaving him. This context reframes everything. Kody's constant need for reassurance, his repeated questions about whether Robyn is happy, and his exaggerated displays of devotion all point to a marriage on shaky ground. On camera, they perform unity. Off camera, the cracks are impossible to ignore. To be clear, this is not a defense of Robyn. Her actions have caused harm, confusion, and delay. But if we are searching for the true catalyst behind this mess, it leads back to one person. He is the common denominator of chaos. Wherever disorder erupts, wherever confusion reigns, his presence is unmistakable. That does not absolve Robyn of responsibility. She undeniably creates and enables chaos in her own right, but in this particular situation, something does not add up. Everyone else agreed to a clear and defined arrangement. Robyn did not. And the question remains, why? As tensions escalated, Yanel's patience began to wear thin. Deadlines were looming, contracts were expiring, and yet nothing was moving forward. Then, suddenly, news emerged that Kody and Yanel had allegedly been discussing a so-called backdoor deal, a plan to sell the property without Mary's consent. According to Robyn, Mary was in an extremely vulnerable position at that point, and she claims she reacted strongly against the idea. In her words, this was not just unfair, it was morally wrong. She insists she confronted Kody directly, questioning why he would even entertain such a discussion and accusing him of attempting to exploit Mary's precarious situation. However, the public narrative quickly became muddled. When Kody initially addressed the issue on the show, he stated that he had discussed selling the property out from under Robyn and Mary. Later, Robyn claimed that Kody told her the plan was to sell it out from under Mary alone. This contradiction is not a minor detail. It is central to understanding who was actually being protected and who was being sacrificed. What makes this even more troubling is the fact that Robyn herself was the last person who had not signed the agreed-upon documents. Mary had already consented. Yanel had already consented. Kody had already consented. The paperwork was ready. The title company was waiting. And yet everything stalled because Robyn refused to move forward. That reality makes it difficult to accept the idea that Robyn was merely defending Mary. If the delay originated with her, then the very crisis she claims to be preventing was one she helped create. This is where suspicion naturally arises. It increasingly feels as though Kody and Robyn are concealing something significant. There is an underlying tension, an unspoken conflict, that goes far beyond a simple disagreement over land. The pattern of behavior, the hesitation, the contradictions, the sudden legal threats, suggests that the issue may not have been about property at all, but about their marriage. It is impossible to ignore the signs. When spouses are aligned, especially in a legally recognized marriage, property decisions are typically straightforward. Here, they were anything but. Kody's anger had been escalating. His behavior had grown more erratic, more belligerent. At the same time, Robyn had just moved into a massive new home, increasing both their shared assets and their shared debt. New lines of credit were being signed, further entangling them financially. On the surface, it looked like stability. Underneath, it looked like control. Kody has spent decades mastering the art of manipulation within a polygamous structure. Even now, despite presenting as monogamous, he operates using the same tactics honed over 30 years. Control through money, security through dependency, compliance through reward and punishment. Robyn, in this dynamic, is not an exception. She is simply the latest focus of those methods. This is not an endorsement of Robyn, nor is it an attempt to paint her as a victim. Rather, it is an acknowledgement of how these power structures function. Kody has openly admitted that he lavishes Robyn with gifts, prioritizes her children, and ensures her financial comfort to keep her loyal and compliant. He has even characterized her as someone motivated by material security. If that arrangement began to falter, if Robyn started questioning whether she wanted to remain legally bound to him, it would explain everything. The delays. The sudden resistance to signing documents as marital property. The constant check-ins and emotional reassurance on camera. The apology tour. All of it begins to make sense if divorce had been discussed behind closed doors. What complicates matters further is Robyn's insistence that the backdoor deal could have occurred without her involvement. That assertion simply does not hold up under scrutiny. The only reason such a deal would even be considered is because Robyn refused to sign. Her non-cooperation created the bottleneck. Without her signature, nothing could move forward. That fact alone undermines her claim that she was merely reacting to others' misconduct. For the first time, Robyn publicly admitted during the tell-all that Kody pressured her relentlessly. She described feeling threatened, cornered, and ultimately pushed to the brink. According to her, she finally snapped and told him that if he continued down this path, she would take legal action against him. She emphasized that she had a legitimate percentage in the property and that she was prepared to block the sale entirely until a fair resolution was reached. This is a stunning admission. Legally married couples rarely threaten one another with lawsuits over shared property unless the marriage itself is unstable. In community property states, spouses typically do not litigate against each other unless separation or divorce is imminent. Robyn's words strongly imply that she was willing to dissolve the marriage if Kody continued to pressure her. And yet, the core mystery remains unresolved. Why was Robyn the last to sign? What exactly did she object to, when Mary had already agreed to the division? Mary accepted the terms. She accepted the percentages. She accepted the structure. The documents were complete. Robyn alone withheld consent. The only plausible explanations are uncomfortable ones. Either Robyn did not want the property held as marital property, or she believed she deserved a larger share. Alternatively, she may have been attempting to distance herself legally from actions Kody had already taken, particularly those involving money that originated from Mary. This brings us back to the NDA. Robyn's legal threat aligns perfectly with reports that she attempted to introduce a non-disclosure agreement asking Mary to hold her harmless. Not Kody. Her. That distinction is critical. It suggests Robyn was seeking protection from potential claims related to financial decisions she may not have authorized but from which she benefited. By framing Mary as precarious, Robyn positioned herself as a protector. In reality, Mary had already agreed to the deal. She was not being shielded, she was being used as a justification. Robyn was not standing up for Mary. She was standing up for herself. The refusal to sign. The threat of divorce. The willingness to go legal. The NDA. These are not isolated events. They are connected pieces of a much larger puzzle. Ultimately, This situation exposes the truth that has been lurking beneath the surface for years. Kody is the architect of chaos. Robyn may manipulate within it, but he creates the conditions that allow it to flourish. Every delay, every conflict, every emotional breakdown leads back to his need for control and his refusal to accept accountability. This was never just about land. It was about power. And power, once challenged, reveals everything. She is positioning Kody to take the full blame for the alleged theft of Mary's assets and the misuse of marital funds, while she walks away untouched. There is no denying that Robyn played an active role in helping Kody deceive, manipulate, and financially exploit Mary. She benefited from it, she enabled it, and she remained silent while it was happening. But now that the pressure has intensified, now that Kody is no longer delivering exactly what she wants, and now that she feels threatened by him, she suddenly wants Mary to absolve her of all responsibility. That is the heart of this entire situation. This revelation explains why the entire season felt so strange, disjointed, and uncomfortable to watch. The emotional whiplash, the forced affection, the awkward apologies, and the constant check-ins were not random. They were damage control. Kody's so-called apology tour now makes perfect sense. His repeated attempts to reassure Robyn, his exaggerated displays of devotion, and his insistence on presenting their marriage as strong and unbreakable all appear to be a desperate attempt to keep her from leaving. And yet, despite all the visible tension, despite the fights and resentment simmering just beneath the surface, Robyn still went ahead and bought a house with him. She still signed a new home equity line of credit for an eye-watering $750,000. That contradiction is impossible to ignore. On one hand, she is threatening divorce. On the other, she is binding herself to him financially in ways that would make walking away far more complicated. Or so it would seem. But here is the key detail many people are missing. Robyn is not trapped. She is preparing an exit. And Kody knows it. When someone repeatedly threatens divorce every time they do not get their way, it is not an empty threat. It is leverage. Robyn understands leverage better than anyone else in this family. She understands how money, debt, assets, and legal entanglements work. She has lived in the real world. She has been divorced before. She knows exactly how to position herself so that when she leaves with everything, and someone else carries the blame. Kody, for all his self-proclaimed intelligence and authority, has severely misjudged her. He underestimated her awareness, her strategic thinking, and her understanding of how systems outside their closed family structure operate. He spent decades dealing with women who were emotionally invested, financially dependent, and socially conditioned to accept less. Robyn is different. She does not operate from that same place of vulnerability. Compared to Mary, Yanel, and Christine, Robyn has more life experience outside the polygamous bubble. That does not mean the other women lack intelligence, far from it, but it does mean Robyn has navigated systems they were shielded from. She knows how divorce works. She knows how liability works. She knows how to protect herself legally. And that knowledge is exactly what now terrifies Kody. What we are witnessing is the slow collapse of a marriage built on control rather than partnership. Kody is beginning to realize that the woman he chose as his legal wife is also the woman most capable of dismantling him. He put all his trust, resources, and loyalty into one basket, and that basket is now cracking. Robyn is showing us, quite plainly, that if this marriage ends, she will not go quietly. She will not sacrifice herself to protect Kody. She will let him fall. In fact, she appears prepared to ensure that he does. There is something deeply unsettling about that reality. Not because Kody does not deserve consequences. Many would argue he does, but because Robyn walking away with everything feels profoundly unjust to the other women. Mary lost years, money, and emotional security. Yanel sacrificed stability and financial independence. Christine gave decades of her life. And yet, it may be Robyn, the one who benefited the most, who emerges unscathed. This dynamic sheds new light on everything we have seen this season. The reason it felt off is because it was. Kody and Robyn are not a happy couple navigating minor disagreements. They are a couple on the brink of collapse. Robyn has already threatened divorce. That fact alone shatters the illusion Kody has tried so hard to maintain. No matter how often he refers to her as the perfect, shy, pretty wife, the reality tells a very different story. That image is manufactured. It is a performance. And the cracks in that performance are everywhere. It explains why Kody isolates himself in the garage. It explains why Robyn perpetually looks irritated, tense, and emotionally distant. It explains the forced smiles, the permanent frown, and the visible exhaustion etched across her face. It explains the apology tour, the tearful reconciliations, and the bizarre emotional scenes where Kody grovels, Robyn cries, and then nothing actually changes. Those wounds did not heal. They are still raw. And Kody has not stopped trying to bully, pressure, and manipulate her into compliance.